You need to chickity check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself.
So what he means is that we need to check our technique to get the best results.
Hey and welcome to today's episode with us at Goat Factory. My name is Adrian Skeppy and together with me is my colleague, Coach Martin Stranta. So Martin, today we're going to talk about form checking. And it's not the type where you look at your figure in the mirror and you flex your muscles and check the aesthetic results that you've gained. It's more about making sure that we have the right technique in order to develop and get our best results.
Yeah.
So why would you say that's important for us to lift up in an episode like this?
Well, if we want to get good results and we want to do an exercise with a good form, we need to learn how to check our technique. So this episode we're going to talk about how to do that. You have some examples, and if we want to get the best results, it's good that we do the exercises with a good technique. Otherwise we might end up with some aches and pains. We might not target the muscles that we want to target, and we might not feel good when we train or work out. Talking about form check, I know you have a couple of stories about training with bad technique and the shoulder thing.
Wait, so what my shoulder thing?
Your shoulders. So could you tell us about like the story when you trained about bad technique?
Absolutely. You had to do the move as well. Well, when I used to play football, I shifted to CrossFit. So I stopped playing football and I had it's called like an upper cross syndrome. Well, technically I had bad posture. My shoulders would roll in and my body would follow, and then my head would kind of go up. And while playing football, that wasn't something that was, I would not say necessary to fix, but it was nothing I would realize I was lacking or had a problem with while playing football, since I was an outfielder, so I didn't have to throw the ball or anything like that.
So when you played football, you were lighter?
I was both lighter, and then there was no barbells, there was no heavy lifts, and so
it was mostly doing with your legs.
Exactly. So if I had a bad posture or not, it didn't affect the way I played. I didn't have to. If I was a goalkeeper, it would be different.
But then you started CrossFit and you gained a lot of muscle.
It took a while, but I started doing CrossFit, and it was a lot of Olympic lifting, and that's a kind of big part of it. And I felt that this was really fun. So with that bad posture, I started gaining a lot of weight. I started lifting heavier. I got way stronger, and that affected me in different ways. First and foremost, I had overdeveloped traps. So because my shoulder was forward, so everything I would lift would use so much of my trap muscles.
Because CrossFit is a lot of pressing movements, like push-ups, handstand push-ups, pressing things over your head.
Pressing things, taking the barbell up, pushing it over my shoulders, and so on.
Using your shoulders and everything.
So much, especially that whole all pulling exercise. Even when you did the pull-ups, it was like even like the kipping, the pulling, and so on. So I would start building this new physique off of a bad foundation because I had no idea what form I was supposed to have or not supposed to have. So there's a photo. I'll see if we can just throw it up here. I have like really overdeveloped traps, and at first glance you would look at it and go, wow, that looks cool and so on, but it actually did two things. The first one is it really limited my results forward, because once that was overdeveloped, all the other muscles were underdeveloped. So whatever I could lift had to do with how well those were trained and not the rest. So I kind of already there took away a lot of the potential muscle I could have used. And the second thing, which I felt was the worst part, was whatever bad posture I had, I really strengthened that. So I became really good at having that bad posture. And to work my way out of that took a long time. And I'm still working on it today, because now I know that my body and my technique is prone to use a lot of those muscles in my lifts and so on.
But did that kind of posture lead to any kind of pains?
I would feel that after heavy workouts, I will always get a stiff neck.
Yeah.
And outside of that, I was working a regular job as well, so that would affect me at work. So I would just feel like it just got more and more tense, and then I would need massage to get it out, or something else, or trigger points, or whatever it could be, just to get right back at it and do it again. And that would just, go on repeat for those 2-3 years that I actually did it.
So how did you start noticing, okay, this is something I have to work on, or something I have to fix?
Well, quite simply, when I was doing something outside of that sport, I just putting something up on a shelf or screwing up a light bulb. That's actually when I started noticing, screwing up a light bulb, and I noticed that I'd get so much pain. It's like, but I can lift like several hundreds of kilos, kind of.
It should be super easy for you.
It should be. Something's not right. And then if I would do, let's say I would play badminton or any other racket sport, hitting the ball here was really hard and it hurt. And I was like, why did that hurt? This ball's like a feather.
Yeah.
So I would notice it in small stuff like that.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. You're so strong. But
not at all. Not at all. And then all of a sudden, when you start like diving deep into it, you realize that, wait a minute, my shoulder is almost pointing forwards. It's supposed to point to the sides and so on. And then it made more sense that if we're too strong on one side, we're usually weak on another side. And those imbalances became way more and more obvious throughout the time. Yeah.
Okay, so with what you know now, how would, let's say, a beginner coach themselves, okay, check their own form? Is there any like practical tips you could give them?
Well, absolutely. Well, see the form check as like a reality check.
Yeah.
So you do like every once in a while. And I would film while lifting or while doing a certain exercise. And what I'd like to do now is I would get maybe even a second opinion.
Yeah.
But from filming, you actually see what's happening and not just what you feel. So I can even notice today doing some exercises, you can walk by and like, okay, Adrian, chin up. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Because even though we're comfortable with an exercise, that doesn't mean we're performing it always with the perfect form. So that would be one thing to film. So do you have any tips?
Well, one is like you said, be conscious. So when you were screwing that screw, you went, okay, this is feeling kind of wrong. I'm getting too tired. So when you're doing an exercise, make sure that you feel the exercise where you want it to feel. So let's say you're doing some type of squat. You want to make sure that you're feeling in your legs, not your lower back, not your upper back, but make sure that when you're training an exercise, that you actually feel where it's intended to feel. Because if you're not, there could be something in your technique. Okay, I have to check this. And then you could, like you said, film it.
Very good. Two very solid tips. So you don't have to overdo it.
Exactly.
Just making sure that it feels the way it's supposed to feel and that you actually looks the way it's supposed to look.
Yep.
So just to summarize, form checking is just like getting a reality check. No matter how long you've done something, make sure that you take a step back and double check. So you look at how it looks and make sure it feels the way it's supposed to feel. And then from that, you'll gain a lot more results, and also make sure you don't have to relearn something after a couple of months. So take that with you guys. Make sure to stay tuned next week for another episode with us. And until then, take care.